Morning everyone. Today I want to talk to you about the pros and cons of entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurial pathway as opposed to corporate life. So it is a Thursday morning, very fresh this morning. It's about 2 or 3 degrees out there, and it's past experiences in business is today's topic. And this is an interesting one because I have been in both the corporate world there for a very short period of time, but I was in a huge multinational company for a number of years, well, for a couple of years before making the jump into entrepreneurship. So I have a bit of experience in this, but this is just my opinions. Again, as always, it's not. Hopefully, some of you will take a little bit of value from it, and it might help some of you make those decisions more informed when it comes to deciding whether to go it alone or not. Morning. So it's when I go back to university, I graduated from Leeds with a business degree with honours, I might add. But anyway, I went straight into the corporate world, into a sales role in medical sales. So it was they were called Covidian. They used to be Tyco Healthcare. So I had a couple of years, 18 months I think to be exact, with them before making the jump into the property world full time. Now it was interesting because that corporate role was actually quite an enjoyable experience. It was a massive company with huge budgets. You know, when you're into kind of medical supplies businesses, there's normally the ones that do it well and the big ones, you know, have almost bottomless pits. And you know, the world that I was in was quite enjoyable. You know, they're taking just 5-star hotels and used to do a lot of entertaining with surgeons, and it was, the first thing I noticed though was how kind of prim and proper the corporate world is. You know, suit and ties all the time, and I know this probably changed now. This is going back to my kind of early 20s, so you know, best part of 15, 16 years ago now. So I'm sure it's probably changed, but it was very much suit and tie, you know, briefcase type role, and also there was this kind of corporate etiquette that you kind of conform to in all about professionalism and image and stuff, which I think is still very important now. But that's one of the things that I noticed first and foremost. The second thing was the resources at the disposal of the company. You know, it appeared inefficient in many respects when I was there, because you know, you were entertaining surgeons and things that you were trying to build relationships with, and they were splashing the boat out on top of the range champagne and all this type of stuff. Now, this isn't the corporate world for everybody, granted, and my job wasn't particularly an amazing one. It was kind of a sales specialist, if you like, but it was a kind of an account management stroke business development type position. But it was decent paid for a graduate position, and commission structure was very good. But I think the issue was you know, I wasn't familiar with this world, and you were just spending for the sake of spending. Entertaining is almost borderline bribing relationships to be strengthened with the company. So it was a little bit kind of endless resources would be something that was very apparent at the time. The other thing that I noticed was, you know, this is a company with a massive labour force, so there was a huge number of people, a big kind of chain of communication. So, you know, if you wanted something changed, or you had a suggestion or something to improve, you know, your operational role, it would have to go through multiple kind of decision-making points and could take weeks and months to be approved. So the decision-making ability was incredibly slow, which meant that it was like this big Titanic going forward. So turning the Titanic was an arduous task, to say the least. I think I was always entrepreneurial. I always had it in my mind that I wanted to do it alone, so I was pretty crystal clear on that. But I think for a lot of people who will see the corporate world, it's quite secure. I know we're in a global pandemic at the moment, but news has just been released about the vaccine, the biotech, Pfizer vaccine, that looks like it's 95% efficient, so just going through final tests before that's released. So I would hope that within the next quarter we should start to see a shift towards more normality again. So hopefully businesses will be in a better place, and people's livelihoods and people's lives will be saved because of it. But if we're going back to kind of normal times, I think people generally saw big corporate companies as fairly secure for their livelihoods. You know, they're a big company turning over large sums of money. I mean, it wasn't in the world where your BAs and your big airlines are in close to going to administration. Your big high street retailers were going into administration either. I mean, we're talking when the times was kind of normal. So I think that's what a lot of people would perceive the corporate position to be. I think the other thing which is quite cool about the corporate world is generally, depending on what level you go, the higher you go, the more of your life it eats up. But I think a lot of people can do their 40 hours a week, and outside of that, their time is their time, rather than if you're in an entrepreneurial position, your business is your business. If something is sorting out, it drops at your doorstep. You know, it rarely stops when you're an entrepreneur. So they're the kind of the main things that kind of griped me as well about corporate life. Was I was responsible for over £1 million worth of business with various hospitals that I used to account manage, and the issue is that even though I got a good commission and a decent base salary, the profit margins in that transaction that I was responsible for were pretty vast, and my share of that was teeny tiny minuscule. And I always wanted to get my true value in life, and whether it was significantly lower, at least I would know that everything I put my graft into, I'm getting my fair reward. And I think you get that with entrepreneurship like no other. It can be quite humbling at times as well. So they're the kind of main things that of what I've kind of witnessed in corporate world. Now compare that to entrepreneurship, and I've been here for many. So I think there's a car coming past me. Just let this car go past. So I think it's I've been in entrepreneurship for kind of 15, 16 years or so. So it's I'm a lot more familiar with this world, and but what I can do is explain the biggest challenge in entrepreneurship, or one of the biggest challenges in entrepreneurship, is the courage to give it a go. And the way I did it was I saved up kind of 6 months of my living costs. So what does it cost me to live on a month-by-month basis? The same lifestyle, obviously we cut back a little bit, but I wanted 6 months worth to have a go. And I knew that if I had that 6 months, after about 3 or 4, if things aren't looking good, I need to get back on the job hunting wagon. On the basis that I was a graduate in my early to mid-20s, I would like to think I'd be fairly employable, and that was my kind of strategy. But the biggest challenge for so many people is making that jump and kind of knowing what you want. And I think the other big issue with entrepreneurship is that most entrepreneurs are ideas people, creative relationship builders, and quite a lot of them, confidence is massive in entrepreneurship. That when you have an idea, it's the ability to broadcast it to the world and take it to market and build a business around it. But that takes confidence, and often with ideas, it might be that the E-Myth analogy of the baker who loves to bake. That's her passion. But when she starts a business, the actual part of her doing the baking doesn't really exist anymore. You turn it into a business, and you can start a business for the wrong reason, i.e. you love doing something. But for entrepreneurship, you've got to love running a business. The idea, although important, you have to have a passion for it, is almost secondary, because the thing that you probably loved about the idea, you probably won't be doing in the business. You'll be running the business. You've got to love the process of business to make it viable. So that's something that I think a lot of people misunderstand. I think with entrepreneurship, the buck stops with you. So you live and breathe by the sword. When things are going well, it's a roller coaster of a journey, entrepreneurship. And when things are going well, you feel on top of the world. When things are not going so well, you're staring at potential bankruptcy. I've been there before, and it is a horrendous experience. And you question yourself, why did I leave that corporate job. But then I wouldn't change it for the world. You feel like you haven't got your wings clipped. I think when you work under people sometimes, if depending on your mindset, you know, I was always very ambitious, not necessarily to build, you know, something that's worldwide domination or anything like that. I've switched to a lifestyle approach. I just want to be able to provide for the values that are most important to me but I want to have control over doing that, and I don't feel I do have control over that if I was in an employed or corporate position. So I talked about the value in terms of I want the value of my true self, and you get that in entrepreneurship, and that's something that it just kind of comes with it. And like I said, sometimes you think, ooh, I'm worth quite a lot now, and other times you think, oh my word, I'm doing crazy hours, I'm getting worse than minimum wage. That's if you're getting a wage, which a lot of people don't in entrepreneurship. So that's another biggie. The other one, when you kind of jump the ship, a lot of people go and run their own business because they want it to work around their own life and they want their own time. But I've got news for you. That only comes after years and years of hard work, systems, processes, outsourcing, automation. The first few years of a business are just hustle, hustle, hustle. It's highly likely you'll be doing a lot more than kind of 40, 50 hour weeks that you probably do in employment. So that's a mistake that kind of a lot of people do. So I'm kind of giving the opposing views here, but the experience, I think I've been watching this is a bit of a crazy analogy, but just run with me. I'm watching a program. I love extreme events and stuff, as you're probably aware, but I've been watching this documentary on Prime at the moment, Prime Video, which is Bear Grylls is hosting the world's toughest race, Eco Challenge Fiji, and it's this like nearly 700-kilometre race over kind of the most horrendous terrain, jungles, swamps, climbing mountains, paddle boating, swimming, mountain biking, and you've got like 10 days to complete it, and the failure rate is obscene. But I think that's probably similar to running a business, because the stats you get for the success chance of a business lasting the test of time is 1 out of 10. Now, a hugely damning statistic, but that doesn't factor in the number of people that build a business and sell it and exit before it potentially doesn't last the test of time. So there's a lot more success in there. I think the stat can sometimes hide it, because a lot of people do exit, sell at a decent price, and kind of move on, and it doesn't really factor that in. But statistically, for a business to last the test of time, you've got 1 in 10 chance. So I think there's a risk element directly apportioned to that, and it's the same with this world's toughest race. 66 teams started, and I think about half are left at the moment. I think the first 3 or 4 have finished, but the other half are probably a smidgen. I'll be interested to see what percentage of them actually finish, and because it's tough, and it's like entrepreneurship is a bit like an adventure race. One day you're swimming, next day you're on paddle boats, next day you're on mountain bikes, next day you're climbing mountains, or scaling rock faces, or abseiling, or running. There's so many different facets to entrepreneurship, and every day's different, but it is such an adventure, it's such a journey, and I think you can be very limited in a corporate world where you might be limited to a set position, and progression depending on the company. Some get it really right, move people around, progress people. But one of my closest friends is this just summarises it. One of my closest friends that was a VP in Nike, and he'd been in with Nike since kind of his early 20s, and he's now, I believe, in his 50s now, but approaching 50. But I think the issue is that he'd been with Nike so long, he's moved all over the world, travelled the world. He was a VP, so I think they had 80,000 employees. He's in the top 350 of them, so super senior. He'd moved all over the place. COVID hit. I know that Nike were doing some restructuring with the new CEO anyway, but what happened? He got made redundant. Just a click of fingers, bang. After he put his whole life into that company, building himself up, and he had this lifestyle that he built up. Fortunately, and he had to emigrate away from the US back to Australia within 60 days of that happening. I mean, companies have that kind of control over you, and I think if you're comfortable with that and you're aware that, do you know what, it's not as safe as you might think, because you'd think a senior VP would be pretty secure, but no. And somebody who put that much loyalty into a company would be secure, but again, no, it's not a lot of loyalty in the big corporate world. So I think that's another one to consider. So I hope this has been again a bit of an ad hoc. I've kind of ad-libbed it, as I always do, just kind of my thought processes about corporate world as opposed to entrepreneurship, pros and cons. Do I regret ever making that step? But I remember we were planning children, planning on moving house, all these types of things when I jumped ship from the employed world in a nice, stable, secure job. And I did it. It was possibly the worst time ever to do it with all the financial commitments I had on the horizon. However, the other thing that I became very, very clear about, there's never a good time. You can always find multiple reasons not to do it. I'm not suggesting you do it, by the way. I'm only suggesting you do it if you're the right type of person to do it, and you do it for the right reasons. So the whole point of this episode today is to hopefully give you shed some light on what it's really like, how it differentiates from the kind of corporate world, and so you can make an informed decision about something which is truly life-changing. But it breaks just as many, well, it breaks far more people than it does make them. And I think you need to go into it with your eyes wide open and realise that, there's no such thing as easy money. It's only easy when you put the years and years of hard graft and you earn the right to have it coming easy. And I think a lot of people jump in thinking that I'll just do my set hours, that'll be enough, I'll just do a side hustle. But it's very, very difficult to do something on a part-time basis to make it viable and scalable. And that's just, again, my experience. So let's open up the debate. Any questions about this, any comments, drop me a line. These are just my experiences. There's countless other reasons how they differ. These are just the kind of my limited experience in the corporate world against my fairly experienced life in the business world. Again, what I need to stress is that I've been close to bankruptcy on a couple of occasions. I think I had 50 quid left of an overdraft. Credit cards maxed out all over the shop at one point when I got a first kind of property flip deal under my belt, which that was at the very, very early stages. I've been close to losing things over a shoddy development, and I still have battles ongoing with that side of things, with partnership separations and all these things, but the pros by far outweigh the cons in my experience. But you can risk losing everything, and it is a incredibly stressful, overwhelming, full of anxiety type journey. And that's why this vlog was set up, to try and help people understand how they can kind of manage these emotions and thrive under these conditions more effectively. So, like I said, any questions or comments or any debates on this, drop me a comment. I'll respond to everyone. Again, this is only my experience, so please don't hold me at a knife point regarding what I'm saying. If it's a bigger topic, I'll still respond. I'll do a separate vlog episode and tag you in. If this isn't relevant to you and it's just cluttering up your social feeds, just click the unfollow button. No bother, and hopefully it won't clutter up your social feeds. But please do make sure you're subscribed to the Entrepreneurship YouTube channel, where all the feature-length episodes will be released at the earliest point. And it's a completely free resource, all catalogued nice and neatly by playlist. So hopefully there'll be something for everybody at some point in the future. And please also make sure you're part of the Facebook group, Entrepreneur, whereby I will be hosting all of my free resources. I have a massive list of free stuff that I want to kind of give to people, and it's in development at the moment, but make sure you're in that group so that you get first access to that as it's released. So that's all from me, other than to say the Entrepreneur vlog was set up to help entrepreneurs, small business owners, overcome stress, anxiety and overwhelm by using exercise as a mechanism to control, manage and thrive under these emotions that every single entrepreneur and business owner will be experiencing. And in my opinion, the difference between success and failure can often be down to how that entrepreneur deals with these emotions. If you don't deal with them and release them, control them, the pressure builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up, and then one of two things happens. The entrepreneur will break down physically or mentally, the business will break down because the pressure's just got too much. Either or is going to be terminal to the success of your business and your future, and you have to start again if you do at all have the kind of mindset or confidence to pick yourself up and start again. So if this vlog can just help one person, one entrepreneur, one business put together a bit of a plan on how to control these emotions more effectively and get them back onto the path to success, then it's 1,000,000% been worthwhile. And my pledge is that so many people bottle this stuff up, don't share it, don't even share it with kind of close members of the family. I've bottled things away from my wife on numerous occasions, who's my closest person in my world, because I felt that I needed to shoulder it and deal with it myself and not share the fear with my family, which that's just how I deal with stuff, but that's how I used to deal with stuff anyway. Fortunately, I don't need to do that anymore, but I've been there and it's horrendous. So my pledge to you is, if you need someone just to talk about this stuff, drop me a message. There's no sale, no obligation for any purchase, anything. It's not, absolutely no sale on this at all. All I want to do is try and give you a little bit of a roadmap, give you some tips on how you can get your life back on track and get back on path to where you want to go as an entrepreneur and a business. So that's it for me today. As always, I will say stay positive, stay happy, and I will speak to you tomorrow. Bye.